And here to discuss is Democratic Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut. Senator, thanks for joining us. So Democratic Leader Schumer just outlined Democratic leadership's demands for changes to ICE. They are tightening use of warrants, ending roving patrols, enforcing a code of conduct, and having ICE agents remove masks and wear body cams. In your opinion, do those demands go far enough, or is that good? Is that sufficient?
Well, they certainly don't go as far as I would like, but we're operating in a world where Republicans control the House and the Senate and the White House, so we're trying to make our demands both impactful and reasonable. I think what we're thinking about are the practices that are offending and shocking Americans, and I think one of those is the masked secret police that should just not be allowed on our city streets. Put body cams on these officers, take down the masks. Second, the roving patrols where they're just walking around asking people to show their papers. That's not America. Nobody really wants that. So end those roving patrols. That's why we would require warrants for arrests like we normally do in many police operations. And then accountability. Just make sure that if there is a crime committed, like this murder, have there be normal, regular accountability, which include a state investigation. So end the roving patrols. No more masked secret police, and accountability. That's not the full list of reforms we need at DHS, but our sense is that that's something we can get done in a handful of days, and it's something that probably unites a big cross-section of the country.
You just used the term murder, and I just want to ask you about that, because that's a legal term, murder. Is that what you saw in the video of the shooting of Alex Preddy?
So you're right. That is a loaded legal term. And I guess that's why we want there to be an impartial public judicial process. This idea that if there is a question of whether murder was committed, that's going to be decided in secret behind closed doors. That's a violation of everything we stand for in America. So there should be a full public investigation and judicial process, including the state of Minnesota. I mean, to me and to many Americans, it did look like murder, but I understand there's a set of facts that needs to be collected before you come to that conclusion legally. I just want to be able to see that process. I want my constituents and the people in Minnesota to be able to see that process. I don't want it to be buried inside the Department of Homeland Security.
And to be clear, I'm not taking issue with it. I just, I know you choose your words carefully. I want to ask you about this government funding bill, because it seems right now that Senate Democrats are united against the bill continuing as is to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Republicans in the White House say they do not want to make changes, and they do not want to separate the DHS funding bill from the wider funding bill. Do you think that we are headed to another shutdown?
I hope not. I mean, we've made it clear that we would pass all of the other bills that would end up having 95% of the federal government funded tonight. We'll do it tonight if they're ready. The only fight we're having is over the Department of Homeland Security. And again, the reforms that we're demanding are not the full list of what we would want in a perfect world. We're offering to have a dialogue about reforms that would make people safer, that would end the terrorizing of an American city. We may end up in a shutdown, but if we do, that's Republicans' choice, because we're ready to vote for all the other budgets except for the Department of Homeland Security, and we're ready to have a reasonable negotiation over popular reforms on that budget.
At least two of your Republican colleagues, Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski, are calling on Secretary Kristi Noem to step down after what's happened in Minnesota. Do you agree with them?
I mean, I do. I think she's unqualified, and I think it's really unacceptable when the highest leaders in our federal government lie to the American public so brazenly as she has, between her and Stephen Miller, calling Alex Preddy an assassin, a domestic terrorist. But I also know that this policy is Donald Trump's policy. Sometimes we want to pretend as if somebody else is running America's immigration policy. Donald Trump has told you exactly what he wants to do. He wants to wage a war on people who aren't white, who have accents, who come from a different place. And so I think if Kristi Noem leaves, she's just going to be replaced by somebody else who is just as incompetent and likely just as hateful and maybe just as addicted to pathological lying. Yeah, she should go, but I just think we need to be realistic that she's probably going to be replaced by somebody who's going to implement the same policy.